Welcome to episode 1 of AQA GCSE History, the First World War. I want to get these 3 videos out before May, so let's just begin. By the beginning of the 20th century, Britain was already a fully urbanized and industrialized nation. London was the largest city in Europe, and from London, the largest empire the world had ever seen was managed. This empire was held together by the Royal Navy, which not only ensured the safety of the British Isles, but most importantly protected the trade routes from India, America, Australia, the Middle East, and Africa. It is important to mention that these colonies were crucial for Britain, as they imported essential food and goods to the cities. 100 years earlier, Britain's victory in the Napoleonic Wars led Britain to adopt a policy of splendid isolation. This foreign policy meant that Britain did not want to get involved in any European affairs. But Britain watched Europe with great caution. After Napoleon's defeat, the French suffered from an existential crisis, bringing back the monarchy, then rebelling again in 1848, and bringing back Napoleon. But the third this time. The Prussians, who we will talk more about later, defeated the French in 1871 in the Franco-Prussian War, bringing about the Third Republic. It's as if France had been hit in the head after this war, because in 1892, the French signed a military alliance with his old mortal enemy, Russia. Russia, like France, feared the growing strength of Prussia, which, in 1871, transformed the North German Confederation into the German Empire. The Russian Empire, a huge agrarian country that expanded from the Pacific to Poland, were humiliated by the Japanese in 1905 and hoped to defend its borders against growing foreign threats. Britain also saw those threats, so, taking advantage of the recent defeats, the Entente Cordiale was signed between Britain and France in 1904, and the Anglo-Russian Entente was signed between Britain and Russia in 1907. These alliances led to the creation of the Triple Entente. But who was the mortal enemy that these 3 large militaristic nations feared so much? Well, of course it was the Germans, who after uniting in 1871 became an industrial power. Allied with Austria-Hungary, became an empire, and in 1890, Kaiser Wilhelm II vowed to make Germany a world power to rival Britain, France, and Russia. This foreign policy was known as Weltpolitik. A new navy was created. You can watch this video over here to learn more about the arms race, or you can also watch this quick short. Naval laws was legislation passed by the Kaiser in 1898, which's main goal was to build and improve Germany's naval fleet to compete with its mortal enemy, the British and its mighty Royal Navy. The naval laws were effective, and Germany increased its number of battleships to 19 by 1903. This caught the eye of the British, who answered by designing a powerful ship that had never been seen before, the HMS Dreadnought. This started an arm race as Germany answered by ordering the construction of 8 dreadnoughts. This worried the British, who ordered 11 more dreadnoughts. Britain's final answer came thanks to the idea of Winston Churchill, who created a program that produced 2 dreadnoughts for every 1 produced by the Germans. The naval arms race was overall won by the British, as by 1914, Germany had only produced 17 dreadnoughts, and Britain, 29. With these growing tensions with Britain, Germany needed an ally, and Austria-Hungary, a nation of a complex mix of different ethnicities such as Germans, Serbs, Czechs, and Slovaks, was the #1 choice for the Germans. The growing neighbor of Serbia, who hated Austria-Hungary, increased tensions in the area, as they were also allied with Russia, which, of course, was friends with Britain and France. It was a standoff. The question was, who was going to shoot first? This tension was felt in 2 particular parts of the map, Morocco and the Balkans. In 1905, the Kaiser visited the city of Tangier in Morocco, paraded the streets, and declared his support for the Sultan of Morocco, provoking France and Britain. But this was all solved in 1905 in a conference held in Spain where Britain supported France, leaving the Kaiser to back down, humiliated. 5 years later, after some riots erupted in Morocco, the French started sending troops, violating the terms of the 1906 convention. In response, Germany sent a warship named the Panther, increasing the tension between these 2 huge military alliances. Another conference was held, and once again, Britain supported France, this time compensating Germany with additional territories in Central Africa. On the other side of Europe, the 1908 crisis saw Austria-Hungary add the provinces of Bosnia and Herzegovina into the empire. Russia and Serbia both spoke out against this annexation, but Germany, standing behind Austria-Hungary, showed that Russia and Serbia were not yet ready for war as they both backed down. Later in 1912, the Balkan Wars were erupt, as Russia organized the Balkan nations into the Balkan League of Greece, Bulgaria, Montenegro, and Serbia. Together, they defeated the Ottomans in just 6 weeks and divided the territories. Serbia got most out of this war, which angered Bulgaria, starting the Second Balkan War in 1913. All these conflicts kept increasing tensions between the two largest military alliances the world had ever seen. The force of nationalism in the Balkans reached a tipping point in June 1914. Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria-Hungary was visiting Sarajevo in 1914 as part of a state visit to Bosnia. As the Archduke was riding his car around the city, a Bosnian nationalist threw a bomb at the Archduke's car, but missed, and injured bystanders instead. Following this failure, the Archduke came back to visit the injured people in the accident, which allowed the same assassin from before, who was just enjoying a cup of coffee next to the hospital, to shoot both the Archduke and his wife. Austria-Hungary, 100% sure that Serbia was behind this plot and with Germany's backup, presented Serbia with an ultimatum, hoping that they would reject it to invade. Surprisingly, Serbia accepted most of the points, rejecting only the loss of control over their justice system. However, this was not enough for Austria-Hungary, who declared war on Serbia on the 20th of July, 1914. 2 days later, Russia began mobilizing its army, prompting Germany's declaration of war on Russia on the 1st of August, 1914. Now let's take a look at past paper questions. As you probably already know, this topic is Conflict and Tension Paper 1, Section B, Option A, which means that you will have to answer questions about primary sources like this one, a French postcard introduced during the First World War. The figure in the postcard represents Kaiser Wilhelm. Pause the video or just take 20 seconds to think about how this source is critical of the Kaiser. Make sure to mention keywords, dates, and events for extra points. If you thought or wrote down something suggesting that this source is anti-German propaganda aiming to depict the Kaiser as greedy, you're on the right track. If you also mentioned that in this source, the Kaiser is attempting to assert global dominance, reflecting his foreign policy of Weltpolitik, nationalism, colonialism, and the aspiration for world control, you're gonna ace this exam. Also, if you mentioned that the second part of this cartoon illustrates the unrealistic nature of this dream, from the French perspective of course, you can move on to part 2 of this playlist. Thank you.